So thanks everybody, the 4 people here at Tushita and the 5 people online. It's very kind of you to take time off to gather together. It's quite important to do this regularly, to remember the practice, remember some of the basic teachings, and especially for us in a busy, sort of more urban setting, it's important to have that space to slow down and begin to let go of what might be quite stressful and very busy, thought-filled days. Yeah. And hopefully it gives us a chance also to remember and begin to connect with some of the teachings of Lord Buddha, who, out of his kindness, taught the Dharma. Today we'll wrap up what we've been doing with a more meditative day, and we'll finish by 8. On Sunday morning, I'm planning to start quite an ambitious project in a way. It's looking at the great text, the Lamrim, or Stages of the Path text, by the very great saint and teacher, Lama Tsongkhapa, who's the founder of this Yellow Hat School of Tibetan Buddhism. We begin to look at his great text, which slowly and very thoroughly goes through the whole path to awakening. So it's a very extraordinary text where he draws from Indian sources to, of course, the original words of the Buddha, and then the sources, the Indian pundits and so forth. And he puts it all together in very masterly fashion. So we'll begin looking at that text, which is really one of the great spiritual classics of the Tibetan tradition, one could say of the whole Buddhist tradition. Yeah, so that will start on Sunday morning with some introductory material on that text and some other factors. Okay, so I hope some of us can join there also. But for today, let's start with bringing our attention to exactly where we are, which is on a chair or cushion somewhere. So pay attention to that. And gradually let there be that sense of bringing the attention to the body. Contact with cushion, chair, a sense of uprightness of the body, level shoulders. Let there be a sense of stillness, a sense of relaxation and ease, and a sense of paying attention, being awake and alert. The posture itself is very important, not only for the proper flow of our internal energies, but also it's actually a very upright, very confident posture. It's not crooked, it's not twisted, it's not, bent to one way or another, or slouching forwards, or, trying to hide. It's a very confident, dignified pose. So this can remind us of the need for self-confidence, and also reminds us of what the Buddha said in terms of basic goodness, basic sanity. He said that's what we all have, despite the temporary ups and downs of life. We have a basic sanity, basic goodness. So this is very important to know, very important to hear, at least. And it's not only the uprightness of the back, but in this posture, the front of the body is open. You could say the chest is open. So here we are proclaiming kind of openness to the world, willing to communicate with the world. This is also very, very important. Again, to remind us that spiritual practice is not just about oneself, taking care of oneself, but we are also there for other people, for the people and the planet, all the beings, in fact. So we're not hiding, we are open. And in this Mahayana tradition, where we attempt to generate a very extraordinary state of mind, aspiration to be of great, to be of great benefit for others and to be able to help others as much as possible. With that extraordinary attitude, it's obviously very important to be a very confident person, without, of course, being egotistic or arrogant, but we need a basic confidence, tremendous confidence. His Holiness of the Dalai Lama has said, to be able to, take up that responsibility to help, to be there for others. So, while remembering the posture, we also remember this motivation, this very positive aspiration, realizing we live in this world with others. Others want to be happy, just like you and me. Everybody wants that. And it's something very elusive and difficult for people to experience, because happiness, harmony, and so forth, it requires special causes, positive causes, which are not always easy to generate. The other factor about people is that we have been very kind. However badly sometimes people behave, in general, we can say beings are very kind. Without them, where would we be? We wouldn't have a bed to sleep on. We wouldn't have food in our body. In short, we wouldn't be able to survive without others. So that also is to be remembered, especially when we feel others are a nuisance, which in a way sometimes they are, of course, but they're not just that. So, remembering these things, just spend a little while on the motivation, reminding ourselves how, checking whether what I said is correct. We all want to be happy. It's not easy to generate happiness. Most people are suffering from a tremendous amount, one way or another. And plus, others are very kind. We are totally interconnected with others. We depend on them. Others includes animals, insects. So I think it would be wonderful if I could be of some benefit to not just myself, but to others as well. Try and generate some feeling along these lines. And then consider how, if we're going to be of any benefit, real benefit to oneself and others, obviously we will have to exercise some kind of control over the mind. This mind, which at the moment tends to be very distracted, can be very moody, very upset, very angry, etc. So here we spend some time now working with the breath, ordinary breath, as we breathe in and out. We pay attention to that, the sensation at the tip of our nostrils as the breath comes in and goes out. That's our basic point of awareness. And when the thoughts arise, which they will, we don't try to fight them, but we just recognize and we let them go. We let them go, and we bring our attention back to the breath in a very relaxed fashion. So there shouldn't be any anxiety about it. The mind will definitely get hijacked again and again by thinking. So here we just let it go and come back to the breath. And we can use the out breath, breathing out, to just let go and relax. Make sure the head and the shoulders are correctly placed. The head should be tilted slightly downwards. That leads to more sense of calm and inwardness. So welcome everybody who joined during the last 15-20 minutes. Are both of you new? You've been before, right?
Last year.
Last year, okay. Seem to remember. And this is your first time? Yeah. Have you done some meditation practice before in the Buddhist tradition?
Not in this tradition.
Good to have a beginner's mind, open slate. Okay, so trying to think what would be most beneficial, since we have some new people as well as some old students. I think we can't go wrong by just reminding ourselves some of the basics, and we'll also do some meditation today in after 7:30, before 8 o'clock. That part we'll also do some meditation, investigating a loving kindness practice, but not in the traditional way exactly, in a more modern way. It's an adaptation, which still is very useful, I think. So we'll do that. For now, I'm wondering if, based on what we have been looking at the last few weeks, or what people might be picking up in the morning meditations or whatever, do people have any questions or anything that is unclear, and we could begin that way? Otherwise, of course, there's a lot of material I can speak about, but that could be a little too much or confusing. Not confusing, but a lot to digest. So does anybody have anything they would like to mention, point out? Somebody here at Tushita or amongst the onliners? I'll give you a few moments to reflect on that. If you do have something, don't be shy. If it's something very basic, it's very good. Nobody, not expecting PhD level questions. Nobody. Okay. So does that mean everything so far has been very clear? I see there are some people here also I don't recognize. Maybe 5, 6 people here who seem to be new to me. So I don't know what your needs are, what your background is in terms of Buddhism. So I'm not really sure what to say. Okay, let me start with something which is based on the title of these talks we've been having, which has been called Torpedoing Our Complacency. There's a few things here. One is that the way most of us live our life most of the time is basically, it's kind of automatic and conditioned. It's based on wanting certain things, not wanting other things, having a routine, having any number of expectations and hopes, perhaps, having a lot of conditioned responses. Even a lot of our thoughts, our ideas, our opinions are received from others. It's not something we have thought out ourselves. Yeah. So it becomes a little bit superficial. And we find, to our dismay, that even though we may be doing all the right things as per what society says we should do. We have the right kind of, I don't know, we have a job, we're law abiding, we believe in maybe marriage and having property and insurance and so on and so forth, and being whatever, law abiding, not harming others as much as we can. Still, we're not satisfied. We're not, and of course, we consume, we have enough to eat and so forth, but even beyond that, most of us have enough to indulge a little bit more. But still, there is no happiness. Our relationships don't necessarily give us happiness. We maybe are expecting too much from them, or we are not very skillful in terms of our relating. So there is unhappiness there. Yeah, there is constant tension between what we want, what our families want, so on and so forth. We have so many things going on. Yeah, so it's very hard to have a peaceful, balanced, happy existence. And this is, of course, a tragedy in many ways, because according to Buddhism, according to Buddha, according to the experience of countless meditators, actually our mind has the potential to be extraordinarily well integrated, balanced, healthy, in a state of harmony and peace and what we might call happiness, contentment. Yeah, it is possible. We do have the potential for that, but most of us are not able to create the causes due to ignorance, not knowing how to do it, and other factors that interfere with it. The other thing, this is one aspect which makes it difficult to have a happy life, and for us to just carry on in the same way, hoping that somehow it will work. Or we just think, well, this is life. We can't expect any more from life. Life is going to be miserable, basically, or just this struggle for existence. And of course, some people can get very depressed about this, obviously. And if you look around, I don't know how many really happy people you will see. Of course, some people don't necessarily show their happiness on their face, but on the other hand, you might see quite a lot of quite miserable people. But anyway, check this out for yourself. And of course, there are many reasons to be miserable nowadays, especially if we are not a very well-off person. Prices, environmental degradation, it hurts the lower income people more usually than the rest. Yeah. So, but the other point, apart from all this, when we do find something, or think we have found something, like maybe we find Buddhism, or we find some path, not only do we expect it to perhaps give us quite a quick result, we are hoping that it will give us some quick results so that we can get rid of this unsatisfactory feeling we have about life, but also we can approach it in quite a superficial manner. We don't, in a sense, really want it to affect us too deeply, because that would be too much of a challenge. We don't want to overturn things too much. We want to feel better. We want to feel good, but we don't want to have our basic way of life challenged. We don't want our basic understanding of who we think we are challenged. Yeah, that might be too much. An example, it's like going to a doctor. You have some symptoms. You go to the doctor, and you're hoping, really, that this doctor will just give you some medicine which makes you feel better very quickly. And so you won't have to think about the symptoms again, at least for the time being. You can, and something simple. You don't want too much, but something that will make you feel better quickly. So that is possible. You could find such a doctor who would give you medicines to basically tranquilize or suppress or, get rid of some of the symptoms, but they might not be going deep enough. So if you were to go to another very responsible, thorough doctor who doesn't believe in sort of this superficial approach, a real practitioner. So you go to that person and they check you up very carefully and they say, you're really very sick. You're very sick. These are some symptoms, but actually underlying, there are more problems. So you need quite a course of medicine, which is going to take some time. If you do it properly, then there's a chance to get well again. But it's going to take some time, and maybe some of the medication will not be very pleasant, to taste and so forth. But we don't want to hear that. We would rather have a quick solution, wouldn't we? We don't necessarily want to go through the hardship. We want to feel good quickly. So this is often how we approach spiritual path. People come to courses, they say, I'm looking for peace. Okay, of course we want peace, especially if we have a very unpeaceful kind of life. But, okay, if we really want peace, what do you mean by peace? There's some superficial feeling of feeling good, and then again, upset comes, problems come, then again, you try and apply something which works very short term. What do we mean by peace? For a Buddhist, it means the eradication of the causes of suffering, the eradication of ignorance, the eradication of seeing things the wrong way. We are attached to what we want. We're basically beings who have attachment. If that's one basic thing we have that. Okay, we also get angry and so forth, of course, but anger usually develops when we don't get what we want. So the basic factor we have to deal with is our wanting mind, the clinging, wanting, attached mind, which is always wanting something, and it's typically wanting happiness and not wanting pain. It's wanting a good reputation. It's wanting to gain, not to lose. It's wanting praise, not to be blamed. It's wanting all these things, These are very high priority things. We're just searching our whole life for these things. So how to overturn that? These are incredibly deep patterns, aren't they, of behavior? It's like going to the doctor and hoping he doesn't realize that basically one is an alcoholic or an addict of some kind. And we're hoping he'll just give us some simple medicine to feel better. But because he's asking all these questions, we have to admit that, I have this problem and that, and I'm addicted to this. And, that doctor unravels the whole of our lifestyle, which is not correct, which is leading to imbalance, leading to suffering. And then he said, do you want to be cured of this or not? If you just want to feel good, well, yeah, sure. Take a pill or have a massage, go to a movie, you'll feel good for a little while, but that's not going to solve the deeper problem. I hope this is making sense. Does this make sense? Some of you heard it before, so you'll be very bored, but it's important, The Dharma, the teachings, are not meant to make us feel cozy and self-satisfied and happy, immediately. They shouldn't. They should be uncovering our attachment, uncovering our hypocrisy, uncovering our mistakes, uncovering the way we are behaving that leads to mischief, that leads to imbalance. That's what they should be doing. That's their job, right? Actually. Job of the teachings, actually, the point is to dislodge the ignorance that is residing within us. This ignorance works in all kinds of ways. you could say one way of discussing how ignorance works is like this. We say that what we see impermanent things as though they were somehow permanent, wanting them to be permanent. We see that is, which is by nature polluted or tainted, we see that as kind of pure. So often we see things or situations or our body as something very good and pure when it's actually not like that. We see things which we think are the causes of happiness, but actually they're the causes of suffering, you know. And we see things which actually don't have any intrinsic, solid, independent existence. We see them as having some kind of solidity or real independence from their own side. So we see very solid kind of friends or enemies or situations, whereas everything is much more changeable and flexible than how we tightly hold on to it. So we have this, this ignorance, which is basically grasping at me, an I, very strongly, which is why it's so easy to get upset, right? That's why it's so easy, even if we are award-winning scientist or novelist or whatever, it's still easy to, get very angry or upset or jealous or whatever, because we have this strong sense of an I, me. However brilliant we are, we haven't learned how to deconstruct this very, very tight sense of self, and haven't learned how to engage in practices that relax us to some degree, then we're always at the mercy of the disturbing emotions all the time. So of course, we can be very charming and lovely and so forth when we need to be. But we can also, the mind in other situations can be very out of control. And we can give in to anger, attachment, and so forth, which we later regret. Yeah. So when we say that the job of the teachings and of the teacher is to make us feel uncomfortable initially, this may seem strange, but that is the case. Good medicine can often initially not only not taste good, but it can bring on what they call a healing crisis. The body can begin to get rid of its garbage, its toxins, if it's really good, appropriate medicine. It doesn't just make us feel good or suppress the symptoms. It actually brings them out and gets rid of them. So in a similar way, the Dharma, it can show us very quickly and very clearly where our weaknesses are, what our weaknesses are, where we are making a lot of mistakes, how our behavior is causing problems. And that's the job also of a good teacher. A good teacher's job isn't just to smile at us and, pat our back and say how good we are. The authentic teacher, guru, at some point will engage in activity in some way, skillful way that begins to hurt our ego, hurt our solid sense of self, makes us uncomfortable that way. Doesn't just give us what we want. Initially we can feel, how wonderful we have a teacher. They're like a friend. They're like someone I can rely on. I can take my problems to them, etc. Lean on them even, a substitute sort of partner even. But actually, that's not the teacher's role. Long term is to really wake us up, shake us up. The greatest teachers in Buddhist history were always very, very they might appear to us as almost cruel. They're very tough with their students. Deep down, they had, of course, tremendous compassion for their students, but they realized they'd have to be very tough. The one way I know from my own experience, it's a small thing, but quite interesting. Usually, we don't see our teacher for many months on end, especially if they're a busy teacher, traveling worldwide and so forth. Then when they do come to visit, then you're all excited and you want to spend time with them and so forth. So you then, you line up to see them, or you hope to see them, and sometimes they just completely ignore you, even though you could have known them a long time. They ignore you, or they, it's not possible to get the interview that you so much want to have with them. It doesn't happen. And you're thinking, oh, how can this be? I've been working so hard for so long. Why is the teacher doing this? Well, why indeed? We have to think. But we so much want to be noticed all the time, appreciated all the time, and, patted on the back, congratulated. And the teacher knows that. And sometimes they just completely ignore. So that's one way. It's kind of another way is they put you in situations that are quite difficult, work-wise. They have you work with people and you wonder, why are they putting me, why am I in this place with this person? I don't want to work with this person. I can't work with this person. They are, obnoxious or this or that or the other. I can't work with them. But then you have to work with them. You can, of course, say, okay, now I'm leaving, I'm going, but that's quite difficult. You made a commitment to your teacher, you can't just leave. It's not like quick marriage or divorce in Las Vegas style, Reno, Nevada style, whatever it is. Places where you can quickly marry or divorce. So we're committed to a teacher and the path. Well, that teacher is going to, as one person said, it's like they're giving you an operation. They're operating on you without anesthetic. So it's quite painful. Can be. So does this sound very depressing? Well, it can do. On the other hand, practice will automatically bring out also our good qualities. There will be moments of calm, clarity. There will be moments, especially if we study, I think also, we begin to understand things. And the more we understand things, the less difficult or terrifying they are, right? Buddha is so clear. The teachings are so clear on the suffering and its causes and how to get rid of them. So clear. Especially with some of the commentaries by the Indian masters and Tibetan masters. We'll be looking, I said, from Sunday on one of the texts, greatest texts, one of the greatest Tibetan masters, Lama Tsongkhapa, who lived from the mid 14th century to early 15th century, died in 1419. So anyway, so now, is there something you would like to ask or mention? There's something in the chat. Oh boy, something fading off. Excuse me, I don't know why I'm hiccuping now. How do we know we are getting better at meditation over time? Yes, I'm really hot. Thank you. How do we know we are getting better along with the distractions, dullness? Anapana is observation, breath, What is the next ideal step? I had another question yesterday. How does inner nature emerge over time? In your experience, have you witnessed meditators transform their responses and memories? How do we become mindful of our aversions? Thank you. Procrastination is a symptom, for example. How do we become mindful of our aversions in order to welcome joy into our experience? Well, excuse me, in short, how do we unlearn feelings on our ways, etc.? Again, this is the whole practice. This is the whole practice of meditation. We start with the breath, you're right, and then we move on to feelings. We watch them and we allow them to unfold without feeling aversion. So this is a process which we can undertake in a very serious way or in a superficial way. It depends on how much time we have. Sometimes we can go on retreats. That helps to uncover some of the issues we have. How does inner nature emerge over time? How does anything emerge over time? You have a small plant. How does it survive? How does it grow? You have a seedling plant. It grows because we pay attention and we take care of it, right? So if we take care of some regular practice, then this can emerge. This inner nature can emerge over time. If you mean by this the basic goodness inner nature. Of course, our deluded inner nature will emerge very quickly when we try to meditate, because in the form of our distractions and so dullness and so forth. So we just have to keep at it. We have to also, according to the tradition, we need to engage in purification practices, prostrations, mantras, all the typical ones in the Mahayana tradition. That helps to clear a lot of garbage energy, a lot of clutter in the mind. Yeah. We have to spend, I think, pay attention in general in our life in trying to be less uptight and more relaxed, open, spending as much time as we can to stop and relax. As mentioned in that quotation from Lingyo Rinpoche the other day, the last paragraphs of his wonderful book. So all this, it's all that there's a whole package. It's not just one thing we have to do. I don't know if that makes any sense. How do we unlearn feelings? Well, it's not, first of all, we mustn't see feelings as bad, which is easy to do, and therefore reject them or feel they're evil or whatever. We have to allow them to emerge. And it's actually one of the most difficult things to do, because we don't want them to. That's why we take refuge in our thoughts, in our thinking, which is very strong in most of us. But even it's not useful, analytical, critical thinking. It's out of control, often repetitive thinking, where problems escalate due to our thinking. They don't get better. I don't think there are many people with the power of much real, rational, critical thought that is employed in a very methodical way and in a very useful way. So, does that begin to answer your question, Ish? It's a huge question. And its regular practice is essential. And the signs you're getting better at meditation is, of course, more relaxed, open, happy mind, less disturbing emotions arise with less frequency, less power than they did before. Can't resist quoting Shakespeare here. One of my favorite plays is Macbeth, and which I urge some of you to read if you're at all interested. In that king, there's this king, Duncan, who has very high hopes of Macbeth, who had proved himself in battle and so forth. And the king, is very pleased with him and agrees to come to stay at Macbeth's castle, of course, not realizing that he and his wife plan to murder him and take the crown. But anyway, there's a beautiful sentence that Duncan speaks to Macbeth. He says, I have begun to plant thee and will labor to make thee full of growing. So this wonderful expression referring to Macbeth is like a plant that Duncan's planting, and you put energy, labor into making him full of growing. Anyway, it's a pity that Macbeth betrays that trust, and with disastrous consequences, for himself, for his sanity. So anyway, so we have to see our basic goodness, our basic sanity, which peeps through occasionally, and we're more calm and quiet. We have to see that as a little seed, a little plant, which we will labor to make full of growing, so that we have a fully fledged basic goodness. One teacher refers to something, referring to this pretty much, he speaks of it as essence love. He says within all of us, there's this basic feeling of being good, okay, healthy, which is akin to a kind of warmth and love. And it's an essence, it's essential, we have it. But all too often it's very hidden under the all of the the busy mind and so on and so forth. But it's very reassuring, I think, even to read these kind of things from great masters in the Buddha, which are saying we do have this basic goodness, not basic badness. It's very easy to think we are basically bad. So easy to think. Because of what we see in our mind, what we see in how the world, how people behave, and what we have been, the lack of perhaps encouragement we've received at home or from teachers. Teachers who are supposed to nurture children's minds, they can be very cruel, right? Teachers can be very opposite of what they should be. So that affects us. Parents, of course, we feel they should be ideal people, especially when we're young, but they're not. They have their own problems. They don't give us necessarily the encouragement we need. So then we grow up feeling that we're not basically good, or not basically okay. So many people have this experience. So we have to realize that's not the case. We are basically, we are Buddha. We are potentially Buddha, right? Buddha is not just someone we look up to as the great teacher. In the Mahayana tradition, we feel it is said that we ourselves can become Buddhas. We can become a Buddha. fully awakened person. This could only be possible if we had the potential, the seed for that, and we do. But again, the hard work involved is too much for most people, vast majority of people. And unfortunately, the vast majority of beings are doomed to live life in a certain way, die, and again have to go through the same treadmill. If they're lucky as a human being, but not necessarily. So, yeah, that's also quite distressing to hear. We would like to hear that after all of this suffering and pain and misery or dissatisfaction, at least we would like to feel that after I die, it's all very heavenly and nice, you know. Suddenly I'm there with the Buddha or God or something, enjoying heavenly bliss. But according to Buddha, it's not like that. What happens to us after we die depends on many factors. It's like expecting to have very peaceful, wonderful sleep and dreams if during the day we haven't had a balanced, wholesome way of life. Of course, most of the world has sleep disorders now, apparently. For one reason or another. Voila. Okay, so now we'll do a little meditation. So just spend a little while. Take a little break if you need to stand or stretch, wherever you are. In fact, there is one very useful technique. Can be done sitting down, but I find it more effective standing up. So I'm going to stand up and do it here. But basically what it involves is putting your hands up in the air and then bringing them down forcefully as you breathe out very forcefully with a big so you breathe in, put your hands up, you go down and you breathe out very forcefully. And then if you're standing up, you can just let your body hang there for a while. Just focus on the sensations in the body. This is a way of short-circuiting the mind, the thoughts which keep on circulating and so forth. So I suggest you practice that. I'm going to practice that here, standing up. So you bring your hands up and then down forcefully as you breathe out forcefully, and then you just you can do that a few times and focus on. And when you come up, if you make sure you come up slowly, not in a hurry. That's not good for the circulation in your head, especially. Yeah. So people online, you can do something like that. Try not to fall over. There should be a noise when you breathe out. Let's focus on the physical sensation. Come up slowly. you're on time, you don't have to follow me. Can't hear any of it. Breathing out the stale air. The lungs. So this is explained in more detail in Sokni Rinpoche and Daniel Goleman's very useful book, Why We Meditate. Excellent book. It's one of the first things they teach in that book. It's very useful because it temporarily short circuits the overthinking mind, which is full of repetitive stuff. We are a body and a mind. We are an energy system. So this kind of practice can be very useful. It's why, of course, simple things like taking a few deep breaths and breathe slowly can be so useful when we feel a little stressed or uptight. We need to work skillfully with the breath and the body. Okay, so short loving kindness practice that I said we will do. So be comfortable, upright, as much as you can. And we'll start with just being aware of breath for a minute, naturally breathing in and breathing out, sense of, excuse my hiccups, I really don't know why they started. Somebody remembering me, maybe. Let there be that sense of letting go with the out breath. And then remember how oneself amongst all of the living beings, each wants happiness, satisfaction. Every single being. I think I'm going to engage in this practice to generate sense of, first of all, this goodness and warmth within myself. First of all, just pay a little attention very factually, without criticism, looking at some of the uh, what might be, you might consider weaknesses or shortcomings in your, in yourself, things that constantly are giving you problems, states of mind, ways of behavior, speech. What would you say are your weaknesses? And look at this in a very accepting and tolerant way, not as a judgment in court, but very open, soft, sort of fearless way. And make some kind of aspiration, or that one will work with these situations, work to improve, work to understand these weaknesses, and heal them as much as we can. Feel that one has the potential, the inner power to do that. If it's useful for some, you can feel this potential or this power as a very warm light, white light or golden light at the heart, uh, which gradually expands through your whole body. Bringing a sense of comfort and ease. Okay. Now, move on to the next phase. Reflect on what your strengths are. What do you think your strengths are, your good qualities? Think about them again in a very matter of fact, gentle way. not feeling proud in an arrogant way, simply acknowledging some of your strengths. And again, you can visualize warm golden light pervading your body and increasing the power of these wholesome qualities. Imagine these qualities becoming more effective, more expansive, powerful. Okay, in the third phase, we realize that true happiness, of course, comes from working with oneself, the love and the taking care of oneself, but that in its highest form, it involves others. So here we realize that actually what can bring tremendous satisfaction and pain is that knowledge that we have something. Each of us has something, yeah, that can benefit others. We each have something that can benefit other people or animals. So reflect on how you would like to utilize your abilities, your strengths especially, and how you can transform your weaknesses into the ability to really benefit other people. How would you in your life wish to be of great benefit to others? What could you do? Reflect on this. What would you love to do to benefit others, which would bring you great satisfaction and be of tremendous benefit for other people as well? Doesn't have to be anything super dramatic, but there's so many ways we can help others. And again, feel that tremendous warmth is radiating from one's heart, center of the body, in the form of light, a warm golden orange light, would be green light even, and pervading the whole body and beyond, radiating out into space, reaching other people. Okay. So feel that it's actually accomplished, that you are able, will be able to be of great benefit for others. And this warmth and love we feel for ourselves, care for ourselves, this care for others, loving kindness for others, feel that that is something incredibly, incredibly powerful and beneficial, and wonderful thing. And rejoice in that. Feel a sense of rejoicing. How wonderful it is. And then to conclude, we can dedicate that by having this session together, we are able to generate the causes for genuine kindness, warmth, openness, and so forth. So that our presence in this world may benefit others, not harm them in any manner. Please dedicate for Ricky Sharma, who passed away tragically a few months ago in a car crash. Very wonderful, promising young man who, again, was about to use his tremendous talents to benefit a lot of people, young people, especially in India. So tragically, he died before he could accomplish anything. So, of course, that can remind us to not waste time, get on with what we want to do. Also, please dedicate for the quick return of our departed teacher who passed away in April, Kabir Saxena. May he returned to guide his many students. May all the great teachers have long and healthy lives. May all their wishes for us be fulfilled. May there be more peace in the world. May people think of benefiting one another rather than harming one another. Okay, so that's it for today. We'll meet again, I hope, some of us on Sunday morning. And I don't know if this has been advertised yet. We have a talk at Tushita on Saturday, 5 p.m. We have a very gifted dance artist who's been engaged in spiritual dance. She is giving a talk here 5 p.m. on the 2nd. That means Saturday. Okay, so thank you all very much. Take care.